We have the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mrs. Simon. Good evening, everyone. First item on the superintendent's report this evening are school calendars, both for this year, the 18-19 school year, and next year, the 19-20 school year. The calendar for the board that is under communications and policy for 18-19 reflects the current snow days that we've used, in addition to the makeup day that we used on President's Day, and it's on the agenda for approval. I want to point out that we still have yet to make up one snow day. I'm going to wait, get through the next couple of weeks of winter, and then make a final determination about that final snow day makeup. There are several options we're considering, but it'll depend on if we just have to make up one, or hopefully not more than one additional snow day. No more, right, Marcy? No more.
No more.
Second yes.
What do we do if you have a power outage?
So I can tell you what for the whole district or for one particular school.
Handle it any way you want.
Well, when it was one particular school, yesterday, we bused students from White House School to Three Bridges. More than that, more buildings in the district, we'd have to consider some other alternative plans. All schools in the district probably have to, if we could make the call and close, we could close, or send students home on an early dismissal, depending on the time they have some sort of outage. Knock on wood, let's hope not. The second calendar for the board's review and adoption would be for next school year, and we discussed this last board meeting. Having those snow contingency days built into the calendar at various days throughout the school year. So the calendar for the 19-20 school year is posted, the major dates, where you'll see that there are those blue snow contingency days that are built into the calendar as snow day makeup days. And if in the unlikely event we don't have snow on those days, those could be potential give back days to staff and students. So those are the calendars. Questions?
Now I'll just make a comment. I like it much better than last time.
Okay.
I like what you did, how it's all spread out.
It's spread, yeah. So
I like that much better.
the idea was to take those blue snow contingency days and spread them out to ensure that we're making up the days throughout the instructional time in March, April, and May, and to ensure that they weren't blocked together too much to give the appearance of a potential vacation, something like that. So it's spread out. So yeah, thank you. Any other questions about the calendar or calendars? Okay. Second, I just want to announce for the public that we will be showing Screenagers film on March 5th here in the RMS auditorium or cafetorium. We have, Doreen has sent out a message. If you can make it and have the opportunity to RSVP, we would love to know how many people to expect. But we certainly welcome you if you're just looking for something fun to do on Tuesday night next week. So we're having Screenagers. Questions on that from the board? So next I'll move into our budget review. We have 3 budget reviews tonight. We're going to start with the transportation department, move on to the facilities department, and finally go over some administration, personnel, and benefits. So I'd like to introduce Marcy and Bob to come up and talk about transportation.
Thank you. Marcy has put most of this together along with the help of Jason, so I'm just here to lend moral support.
Okay, so not a lot has changed on my budget from last year. The first line item is the ESC management fees. That's what we pay the 100 in ESC for finding drivers for routes for us when we can't cover them. That has not changed from last year. That's the same. The next line item is the VersaTrans support. That's our routing program. That we share that with Branchburg. We pay half and they pay half. Prevention specialist, that is for our drug and alcohol testing for the drivers. That is also a shared cost with Branchburg. The cost you see, the 600, that's ours. I'm sorry, the annual fee is 600. For the random drug and alcohol testing is 1,700. That's also shared. Shared services, that is for the garage and, right, Jason, the garage,
Me,
Bob,
yeah.
mechanics. And then the 45,000 is for the clerk, the full-time clerk,
Right.
to make her a full-time. She's part-time now. Let's see, next line item
I
is
just
the
had a,
outside bus repairs. That's when, I'm sorry.
yeah, I just had a question about that. So I
Sure.
see that that line has gone up about 54%, $72,000 since last year. I was just wondering, is that mainly from going from part-time to full-time? Is that what I think mainly?
Part
That's-
of it is
yes.
that,
And
and
the other,
part of it is the garage cost, the 30,000 you're gonna pay for, I think it's 4 or 5 years for the new garage that's being built, for the mechanics to work in.
the outside bus repairs, that is for non-warranty work on buses when we have to send them out. A lot has been sent out this year due to garage space. So hopefully that changes the end of next month, March, hopefully, fingers crossed. Fire extinguisher services, once a year, the fire extinguishers have to be recharged, maintained, so that's what that's for. Motor vehicles for the bus registrations. Every time we have to renew a bus registration, they send it to us, it's like your car, they send it to us and I have to go to motor vehicles and renew it. That's-
$50.
Yeah, it's $50 per bus.
We used to pay it in inspection fees.
Mhm.
They used to charge $25 each time you came for inspection.
Yep.
Now they charge $50 a year registration fee.
And
The
we don't-
inspections are no charge.
Yeah, we don't have to pay for inspections anymore.
You can give us any.
The next one down, the 270511 account, transportation, contracted services. The 47 is for a contracted bus in case we need one. 4 contracted buses are from Branchburg. They help us with Reddington Hollowbrook runs. This year, we're only using 3, so hopefully we can keep that to 3 next year. The 16,000 is to help us do sports, fall and spring sports. And then we took out, there was 2 buses, contracted buses, we took one out, that's the $35,000 reduction. Yeah, that went up to the clerk. Next page, transportation vendor jointure. The 100 Central Aid in lieu, that is for the K through 8 students in Reddington Township that attend non-public schools. We pay them, it's $1,000 a year for each student that attends a non-public school. And we have approximately 68 students in Reddington, the K through 8 that go to non-public. Next one is the transported non-public students. We had, last year, there was 5 students that we were able to get on a route from a ESC bid. Sometimes it works out where it's cheaper to put them on a route than it is to pay them. But this year, unfortunately, it didn't work out like that for us, so we're paying all the parents. We're not paying ESC to do the route. Let's see. Special education transportation. all of our out-of-district runs, and most of them are done by 100 ASC. We have, I believe there's, Karen, how many do we have out of district this year? 11? 12. We have 12 students going out of district this year for different schools. Next one down, there was money put in for one additional placement for next year in case we have another one come in besides the ones that are aging up. Somerset County ESC, we also use them for out of district routes. And then, let's see, next line item is the seminars for the school bus drivers. This is the same as last year. School Transportation Supervisors Conference, same as last year, nothing has changed. Miscellaneous would be our insurance, and then our fee for our tower rental for our two-way radios in the buses. That has not changed. Page 3, supplies, materials, envelopes, that's pretty self-explanatory. That hasn't changed since last year. School bus supplies, extension cords for the diesels, fuel, gasoline, and then Branchburg, the 85,000, that's for the reimbursement for fuel and parts when the mechanic has to get the parts through Branchburg, it comes out of that account. Miscellaneous other, next one down. This is reimbursement for the drivers when they have their physicals every 2 years. They need to be DOT certified right now, so they get reimbursed for that. Their fingerprints, they have to be fingerprinted every 4 years when they renew their driver's license. If you become a new driver, you have to be fingerprinted for that. Physicals, we are trying to get all of our drivers air brake endorsed, so we told them that if they get their air brakes, we'll reimburse them for that, their permit. Equipment, next page 4. Cameras for the buses. This is when we get new buses, we have to put them in, so we budget for new cameras. Sometimes they go bad in the buses now, so they're a replacement. And then the big one, school buses, we're putting in for 2 vans for next year for our preschool routes, and we have the vans that go on the outskirts of the district. It's just much easier than trying to get a bus up there, and that's about it.
Thank you, Marcy. Questions about transportation?
Just, thank you for bringing this in substantially below last year.
Marcy, quick question. You mentioned about the buses not under warranty. How many buses do we currently have that aren't out of warranty, or what is the cutoff?
5 years, and it's more than half of our buses are out of warranty. If you need a specific number, I can get that for you. I just don't have it on the top of my head.
And the 2 vans, they're going to be in addition, or you're replacing ones on here?
We have vans now that we're just dumping a lot of money into. So get rid of them because they're out of warranty, put them on gov deals. They're out of warranty, they're just costing a lot of money now. At the beginning of the year, we had to put a transmission in one. Now we have another one, the motor's going, so.
Anybody have any other questions? No, thank you very much.
Thank you, Marcy. Next on the agenda is facilities.
Good evening. So everybody should have received, I made up a little packet, I gave everybody supplements, some supplemental information every year, so I'll refer to that as I'm going through. We'll go through my budget items. First, page 261420, the top list is going to be maintenance projects that we'll be either doing in-house or have somebody come in, either smaller projects. We'll be doing some sidewalk curbing repairs at all the schools. RMS and TBS, it's their year to get some painting done in their buildings. Hollenbrook, Paul, we're going to be converting his computer room into a book room. Since the district went one-to-one with computers and students, we don't need a big computer classroom anymore. So we're going to take a bunch of different book rooms in this building and turn them, using them, move them all into one room, and use that other space for other things. Roof repairs here at Hollenbrook, which is an ongoing thing. So some track repairs on the maintenance on the track out back here. We're going to create a closed-in.
Don, I'm sorry to interrupt. Can you hold on 1 second?
Yes.
I recognize looking at the board portal that we have your packet document, but without the actual attachment that you're going through. You're going through your budget right now, correct?
My budget.
Can you hold that up, please? Just
Yes.
real quick so we can see. So Don is going through his budget just like Marcy did with line by line.
Yes.
The board packet is Don's memo to all of us.
You don't have
that.
You don't
So
have my budget.
Jason has it. Yeah, he'll email it to the board
Okay.
members right now. Can you
Sure.
do that, you think?
I thought I missed it.
No.
I was just gonna log in.
So just so you know, board members, you didn't miss anything.
You
It's
didn't miss
okay.
anything. No,
I was doing the same thing.
Yeah.
So Jason's gonna download it and hopefully email it out just in the next couple of minutes.
Yeah, no problem.
Maybe go through your memo
Yeah,
first.
if you want to
So
walk
just
through your
so we'll
memo.
okay. So we'll just go through for the new board members. Welcome. You know, I put together just kind of just a generalization of basically the facilities department with our 4 basic sections. Our required maintenance, which is our basic provides with our in-house staff, the maintenance guys, and the to do the repairs and things like that on the buildings they need to do. It also lets us bring in outside contractors. We do things like the boilers, HVAC, refrigeration, roof repairs, those kind of things that are too big, too costly, or too time consuming for us to do. Our routine maintenance, and I'll go through all this on the other budget when you guys have it. Our routine maintenance, which basically is our day-to-day operations. Energy is our biggest, one of that. Our custodial supplies, our custodial contract with the evening crew, trash recycling, collection, those kind of things, and then plus, part of our service. Also, Brett lets us bring in outside technical service for our compliance that we need to do for state, federal, and those compliance things we need to do. Water quality, air quality, pest control, right to know, things like that. Care and upkeep of our grounds, which just supplies the funds to do all of our landscaping, our athletic fields, playgrounds, our ice and snow removal. Security services, basic security in our buildings. It's our Sonatrol building alarms that we have for off hours. It's the joint agreement we have with the township that supplies us with an SRO for our district. And then, of course, in the last one, the big one is capital outlay, which this year we're doing the security vestibules in all the buildings, get the vestibules done. We're also doing some window film in out of the way locations. I'm looking into visitor management systems. Card access. We're looking at card access and starting to think about some of those things to do for security after hours and those kind of things. So that's kind of just basic little review of the other stuff. The other pages, kind of as I'm going through, I can refer them as we're going through.
Donna, I just want to say, we've done this before, but I want to say that for the new board members, this first page was very thoughtful, you put together.
Yeah, it just kind of gives you a general idea where some of the money goes. You know, things that we do. So, ready?
So, board members, if you check your board email, you'll see a note that says "sorry" from Jason, and attached to it, you'll find 6 pages of Don's budget. If anybody can't access it, I can show you my computer if need be. Are we good?
We're good. Okay. So we'll just go back up real quick up top. The first few items that are on there are maintenance projects that we're going to be doing next summer. This is money that comes out of maintenance reserve money that we have, to do smaller projects. A lot of these are smaller maintenance projects, sidewalk and curbing repairs, some painting around the district. Here, we're going to take the computer room here and turn it into a book room and consolidate 2 or 3 different closets worth of books into one room. Some roof repairs at this building, some track repairs out back. Over at RMS, we're going to create a closed-in storage area to put the wrestling mats. Right now, they're kind of out in the open, and so we want to kind of close that off. And then the other thing, it's the other 4 schools, the building location mapping. That's the numbering of doors and windows inside and out. And then over at, since last year, since the White House hallway came out so well when they took the carpet out, we brightened it up and everything else. We thought maybe we'd do the same thing at Three Bridges this year. Hallway going down from the office down to the gym.
Quick question, on enclosing those mats, is that simply an aesthetic issue, or does it, improve the longevity of them, or is it a trip hazard? Or
It kind of gets them out of the way, because now where they are now, there's always stuff thrown down there. There's always people down there. They climb on them, things like that. It's really, and I think it's really kind of a security kind of thing as well. Kind of close that area off. It's nothing fancy. We're basically on putting a wall up with sheetrock on both sides and a set of double doors. Yeah, that's the extent of it. It's not. We're not doing any lighting upgrades. We're not doing any. We're basically just putting a wall up so we can create a closet for that.
If it extends the life of them by another year.
Extends the life of the. Just keeps everybody around. Kind of keeps them out of the way. That area down there has always been kind of a little bit of security and supervisory issue with the middle school. So I think it'll I think it'll make it a little better for that down there. And then over at RMS, this just popped up this fall that we have a couple classrooms in the middle school that the asbestos floor tiles are starting to pop up. So we're going to take them out and replace them and get them out of there and just replace them with regular floor tiles.
Is that the fact that asbestos? I mean, I realize it's encapsulated because it's in tiles.
Yes.
Does that trigger a whole.
But it'll be an abatement. I'll have an abatement company come in and do that. That's too big of an area for us to do ourselves. So I'll have our consultant. We do have a consultant on that comes in and takes care of that for us, and they'll come in and do that.
And that cost is enough?
Cost should be enough. He should cover it. Yeah.
And Don, just to clarify for everyone, we make sure that the area of the building or the building itself is not in use while we are doing the abatement.
Yeah, nobody will know that. That's if I hadn't told you, you probably wouldn't even never be able to get it done. Yeah, it's an after-hours thing. It's a weekend thing. They come in and knock it out, and there won't be any impact in the middle school at all.
I mean, it's important. The reason why I stated that because there's a very big difference between asbestos insulation where it's friable and when it's embedded in tile.
Yeah, they come in and do
Very
it.
different
Basically, they come in and do it very non-friable. It's really, and yeah, there is some asbestos in the floor tile, but really it's in the mastic that's underneath is where really the asbestos is. So they have to come in and chemically clean that all up as well. Yeah, like I said, it's we've done it before in the district. We don't have too many rooms left in the middle school anymore that have. So as they start popping up, it's just get them out of there. Gets them off my list, and then it's something else I don't have to worry about. So Keep moving down, this other required maintenance, and this is what I was talking about on my summary, the 261-420 account. That's for, the repairs. We can have people come in, I have people come in and do our boilers, come in and do our HVAC work. They do our refrigeration work in the kitchens, plus, roof repairs and some other things like that. Actually, on the last page of the supplemental that I gave you, has kind of a breakdown the last couple of years of where some of that 261 money has gone. You'll see that probably the boilers, HVAC and things like that are really some of those bigger ticket items on those, and it's 261-600, which is the required maintenance supplies. That gives my guys the supplies they need to do all the repairs, to keep the, do any kind of, and then preventative maintenance work that we do. These numbers, they were based on square footage of buildings, and they're just money that we have to, we're required to set aside to do those. Moving down to 262-300. This is some of these compliance companies that we have that work for us. Like I said, the asbestos management, our well water compliance, which is an ever increasing endeavor. Seems like every time they change administration in Trenton, the DEP says, "Oh wait, let's do this now." So it's always changing on that. Right to know, which is chemicals in the district, our fire alarm monitoring, water testing services, which goes hand in hand with the well water compliance. Both of those have increased. It's getting more and more expensive to do those compliances. And then one of the new ones on this line item is air monitoring and remediation. If we do any kind of air monitoring, we had a couple, this year where we had to do a little air testing this year. So there's money set aside now for that as
Is
well.
that mostly for mold?
Yeah, it's really just kind of, it's really just if something pops up and we need to do some air testing, we have some money set aside to do that. I don't have to worry about finding it somewhere or pulling it from somewhere else. 262-420 is basically our more of our routine maintenance. Our trash removal and recycling services are there. We just signed a new 3-year contract with Republic Services to do that for us. Our annual fire alarm inspections, our fire equipment inspections. That's our sprinkler systems and our Ansel systems in the kitchens. Fire extinguisher test recharging. They have to be tested and looked at every year. They get inspected, and I always end up having to have a few out because every 5 years or so they have to go out and be tested and recharged. IPM, which is monitoring, which is our pest control. That brings our pest control services in once a month to our building HVAC controls. For those, that is the control systems for all the schools. The custodial cleaning services contract, that number is likely to change. That was just a budgetary number I put in there. We're going to be opening bids on Friday for the new custodial contract that goes into effect July 1st. Actually, Anna's not here. I did this just for Anna. We did, Anna, because Anna always asks about the custodial. Is she listening? Okay. Well, I know she always asks. So I put in did a comparison, a couple sheets, comparison of in-house versus contracted services. I see the first page is basically this year's 18-19 contract, which was $622,291, and then the savings to the district by having the outside nighttime cleaners. The second page of that is the other scenario was that if we were to renew them again, which we're not able. We've exhausted the renewals, which we had to go back out to bid. If we were to renew them at the current index rate, next year we'll be paying $644. So, and of course, there is still savings to the district. So, like I said, this number is not concrete either because, like I said, Friday the bids are out right now. We'll be doing a bid opening on Friday to see what the new contract costs are.
Well, you should point out that the savings is, $170,000.
Yes.
Which is a consequential sum.
Yeah, it's still quite a bit of Yeah, quite a good money. Yeah, it's a wreck. You know, it's really, there's a lot involved when you start sitting down and start thinking about everything we have to pay for, you know, it starts to add up.
But it's
You know.
definitely good to do this analysis every once in a while, so you can, just make sure we're
Yeah,
in the
keep
right
an eye
direction.
on, because, you know, when we first started doing this about 10 years or so, this price of 644 was half that much.
Mhm.
So that's how much it's gone up in 10 years. You know, so we'll see what happens with, with the minimum wage going up in New Jersey, and let's see what happens with those wages compared to what these guys are making now. So, I don't think it'll affect this contract that much, but who knows, down the road, what's going to happen with those workers when, minimum wage gets to be more than what they're making. Most of the
At
time.
some point, the lines may cross.
So
and
the
then
lines
they
may
make
cross,
a
and
decision.
this number may go back to where it's, feasible to bring them back in-house. So, one of the other things that I asked, it wasn't in the bid specs that way, but I kind of, asked that whoever the management company is, keep the employees we have now. Yeah, keep everybody we have here, because a lot of them have been here for since day one. William, my nighttime supervisor, is, I don't want to, lose him and some of the other people have been here. I've been here normally, a lot of years. We've had very low turnover in that staff. So, they're all very dedicated to working here in the district. So, even though they don't work for us. And then custodial cleaning overtime services for the nighttime crew. That helps us cover weekends. This time of year when rec is going on, and we have a lot of those after hours activities where we have multiple schools open. So they help us with that as well. And any kind of additional dumpster service we may need. If it turns out we need an additional dumpster here and there, a lot of times we'll get one in the summertime just to get rid of extra garbage and things like that. 262,490. Same thing. It's our sewer taxes for the district, our city water service for White House School, the custodial mop rentals in the district, elevator service, state inspection fees, and then our temporary restrooms for the athletic department for the middle school for athletics. 262,520 is our, my part of the insurance for the district. 262,580 is professional development and my travel in the district. 262,590, that is the work order software program we use along with the energy management software we use. Those are the annual licensing fees to use those programs. 262,600 is our general supplies. Paper products, it's our paper products, our cleaning supplies, light bulbs, our light bulb disposal, my share of the office supplies here in the board office, maintenance supplies, that's maintenance department supplies, those are maintenance supplies my maintenance guys need, and then our vehicle repairs to keep our fleet vehicles running.
John, is the light bulb disposal for mercury?
Yes, they are. Yeah, they're for the fluorescent light bulbs we take out.
If we start moving to LEDs, that'll remove that line eventually.
Eventually, they'll remove that line. Right, exactly. Actually, they'll remove the one above it as well, which is the bulb purchase of those bulbs. The light bulbs, the purchase, and then the one below is disposal.
Well,
That's
that's,
expensive. It's expensive to get rid of the bulbs.
I mean, that's assuming that the bulbs last long.
Right. That's assuming, yes.
Well, unfortunately, some of the ones that we purchase, the promise doesn't quite meet.
Right. Yeah, that's definitely.
We'll have this discussion between.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So and then let's see. So we're going to move down to 261,621, which is energy, which is the other one of the biggest line items in my budget. Natural gas. We didn't do that. Basically, we kept that budget line item there. Now, as it's always been, it's been like that for a few years now. Only because natural gas is very weather driven on how much we use. So depending on the weather and things like that, it's really, there isn't, the next one down is 622, which is electricity. You'll see there's a bit of a reduction in that line item. A couple of the other handouts I have for you. I always show you kind of a historical going back 10 years or so of our energy costs in the district. So basically we're down about 10% energy costs last school year. Electric use was down. Our natural gas use was up a little bit, but like I said, that's kind of weather driven on what we, but we're still in that downward spiral compared to the 2008, 2009 school year when we were paying over $1 million for energy.
Let me make a few points here, because Don, I guess, I don't know if everybody has seen Don's memo here, but comparing district electric use from 2007-8 to 2017-18, the 10-year, electric use has dropped approximately 40% in 10 years.
In 10 years.
We've gone from approximately 5 million kilowatt hours down to 3 million kilowatt hours, which is, a remarkable drop. And the cost has dropped approximately in half, from approximately $800,000 in 2007 to $400,000 in 2017. And that in this budget alone, the electric is dropping $48,000 or 10.8%.
Right.
And that's something that we should be proud of.
Oh yeah, I think we should be proud of that. And that's really just kind of, and then the other sheet I have that I wanted to share was, the solar system came along about a year ago. I don't have a full school year's worth of data yet, but I do have 12 years of data, which the other color graph that I gave you, that I have for you, it should be there. So basically what we did is we went back and we looked at 12 months of solar data, right? And if you look at the graph, the gray bars, we went back and we took some of the manufacturers and some of the solar companies' projections on energy use and energy production. Basically, then this graph's a little bit backwards. I should have done it the other way. But if you start at the bottom, the grid purchase. So their projection now, this is just Hollenbrook, the middle school, and Three Bridges. This is not including White House. These numbers don't include White House. The other sheet that I gave you includes White House, the overall numbers. So when you look at the grid purchase, in the gray, their predictions based on past performance that, 2.8 million kilowatts power was their projected for us to use. The blue bar at the bottom says 2975. Basically that we took, now it's not a school year, but it's 12 months of data. It goes from 117 to 118, which is the year before we went live with solar. So, our usage was a little bit more than they projected, right? And then when you look at the bar in the middle, when you look at the orange bar in the middle, which is 118 to 119, which is when the solar system came online, this was our actual grid purchase. So we went from 2.9 million to 2.2 million in that 12-month period, right? So then if you look at above that is the grid, that grid cost that we got from the utility. The year before we had spent $403,000 on electric. And then once the solar came online, we were down to $295,000, right? On-site solar produced, this was the 1.225, the gray bar there. That was the solar manufacturers and the companies, that was their projections of what we could produce, which was just roughly 1.2 megawatts. We actually produced just a little over 1 megawatt. So solar system is producing.
Well, it's producing. We did have that 1 or 2 month period where there was some
problems. Yeah, there was some little approximations. So these aren't particularly concrete. I'll be happy when I get a full school year worth of data, so I can compare school year to school year rather than 12-month periods, because this doesn't match any budget numbers or anything, because they're all
And I'll also be happy to see the second, because the first year,
Yeah,
we had to
the
iron out.
first
some
year, there's
things.
kind of iron out, there was, in the very beginning, there was some,
There was stuff.
there was stuff going on. We couldn't make heads or tails of bills and things like that. But, now that we've been on there for basically a year or so now, we're starting to get ahead of that, and we're starting to kind of figure out the way, these projections should be. Because if you look at the numbers, and we're going, hey, since we came on our net usage, I said, why are we using more electricity than we did before we turned the solar system on? But that's some of that kind of, things that are fluky numbers and things like that. So you move up to the next one that has the orange bar that's all by itself. This is on-site production. This is excess production. This is production we didn't use. So this is actually production that we put back in the grid. So we've been able to put some actually electric back in the grid. And what that does is that lowers our net grid purchase.
So that's in the summer when
In
they're
the summer at
producing
the
at full
height of,
capacity,
right,
and the buildings are not using much.
yeah, right.
But then they net it out, like right now, when we're not producing as much, we get credit for that.
We get some of those credits back. Yeah, it's very small. I mean, it's very small, minute. Like I said, it's part of that thing of trying to read those bills, is trying to figure out where this little bit of electric going back and forth is. So when you get everything all done, you do the net usage when you've taken the excess away. Like I said, they were saying we're going to use 2.8 kilowatts of power. The year before we had done 2.9, and then 18, 19, those 12 months when the solar system was up, we had 3.05. So that's kind of that numbers where it's like, wait, things don't match up, but so then we get down to the top when we look at net cost. Their projections were $297,000 a year, hopefully a lot smoother.
Maybe we'll get a better year.
Maybe we'll get a better year. And then the Amoresco with the PPA agreement, that 85.5, that's really not the hard number either, because like I said, we don't have a full year's worth of school data yet from them. So this really is just a budgetary number that was left over from last year before we did this. 262,800, that's the registration and other registration fees. That is our life hazard fee we pay for the district. It's also our air permitting for our boilers and those kind of permits and things like that. That's the district's involvement with the Buildings and Grounds Association, those sort of things. So we'll move on to grounds. 263,420, our contracted snow removal service for White House School. That's we have a company come in and do the snow plowing for us in that parking lot, because only with that way that parking lot is, we need to be able to move the snow around rather than grounds equipment repairs. That keeps our landscape equipment running. RMS, the Project Adventure, that handles our inspections and any kind of repairs we have to do from years and years. It seems like as that system ages, we've been doing more and more repairs on that equipment out there. Playground mulch, and then snow equipment rental. You're seeing as you're driving in the little fenced-in area there, you see there's a backhoe sitting there. I rent that every winter, only because if we do have bigger snowstorms, as soon as you hear bigger snowstorms coming, you can't get a hold of them. And it's kind of tough to get people to come in and move. So that just, we have used it this year. We have used it a couple times. We used it this past storm we just had on that snow day to move some stuff around. 263,600 is our ground supplies. That is the ice melter and the road salt we use we get road salt from the DPW, and we use ice melter for that. Baseball and softball, that infield material we use for sprucing them up. Grounds equipment parts, that is for anything that we need for our landscaping equipment that we can do. It pays for mower blades. It pays for oil changes on the machines. It pays for the fuel for the machines. Athletic field paint, which is for the athletic department in the middle school. any kind of other landscaping materials, which also takes care of our, the mulch we do every year around the landscaping, and then just other general landscaping things we need. New item on this one is the track maintenance supplies. We set some money aside so we can, try to maintain the track out back here a little, better than we have been. 266-300, security, and professional and technical services. That's Sonatrol. That's the building alarm after alarms that we have on all the buildings. They also do boiler alarms. They monitor my boilers, and they also monitor the walk-in refrigerator and freezers in the buildings. If anything goes wrong with them, we get phone calls. I'd also, like I said, with the township, that gives us Officer Gil Murray, who's here that does our SRO, or whoever it may be. Today it was Vinny. I was talking to Vinny earlier today. And then something that the other one on the bottom is another line item that we added this year. We're adding a second patrol officer for 10 hours a week. 266-600. This is kind of a new one that just came up. As we're doing security upgrades in the district, we have had to start putting some money in this line item to pay for general supplies for that. It's things, the lanyards everybody wears, go bags, things that we're going to need as we get, become more secure. The visitor management system and those kind of supplies, that's going to pay for the installation of that system along with upkeep on that. There's supplies to buy with that as well. The building digital mapping. This is a venture that the prosecutor's office is doing in the county, where they come in and digitally map our buildings and then make them available to law enforcement, fire, EMS, everybody. It's almost similar to the camera system where you'd be able to log on outside the building and actually be able to get an overhead view of the buildings. So, and then the last little thing is Fund 12, which is that money still has to be in there because we don't know what right now. Hopefully very soon we'll be going out to bid for the vestibule projects that'll be doing over the summer. So like I said, each building will have vestibules, visitor management, and then definitely we'll be looking at some other security upgrades as we move along. That's what I had.
Well, Don, thanks a bunch. I'm glad to see that we were able to fit some more security patrol time in there. I think that's great. Thanks a lot, Don.
Yeah, welcome.
Anything else for Don?
No. Thank you, Don.
Welcome.
Administration.
So I'm going to give an overview of salaries and benefits for next year. For the two new board members in particular, realize there's confidential materials that are attached. Anything that you may think might be confidential, you may want to ask in executive session. I'm going to give a high-level overview for this purposes, and most of the public information will be shared during our budget presentation on March 12th.
Is this the central administration budget?
I'm going to go through each one individually.
Oh, okay. So I can follow this.
Yeah.
Which one? What is it?
So the first attachment says salaries and benefits major modifications. When you open that, most of those items inside of there are confidential. That provides a high-level overview of the budget for next year. That was conveyed in confidential minutes previously with the Finance Committee that you may have seen. I'm not going to go through that right now, but if you have questions on those items, we can talk in executive. The second attachment is substitutes. How I'm going to handle this a little bit differently than the other budget managers is scroll to the last page. The last page provides an overview of the total for report. If you look at the difference column, that is the major impact to the budget. In this case, it's down $16,000 approximately, or 3.3%. We have reduced our budget for substitutes for next year based on necessary budget cuts to make a 2% cap and still meeting things that are mandatory, such as salaries, benefits, insurance, out-of-district placements. Is there any questions on specific lines or substitutes before I move to the next attachment? The third attachment is central administration. There is not a lot of confidential information in this, so feel free to ask questions. If you scroll to the last page, which is 5 of 5, you'll see a reduction of $43,000 or 12.4%. That reduction primarily comprises two things, which is legal, which is our board attorney of around $14,000. We reduced that. We are going into negotiations next year. So we still have money inside that budget for negotiations, as well as potentially pushing one case to the insurance company, which is a $10,000 deductible. The other major decrease in here is audit of $28,000. That is the result of a one-time accounting adjustment that I made last year to reflect better the timing of services for our audit and the payment relating to that. So you'll see we actually paid the auditors double last year because you should be reporting services rendered and paying that expenditure or recording that expenditure in the same time the services are rendered. Previously, we were not doing that. So to make it better from an accounting perspective, we doubled up in 1 year. Moving forward, that will never occur again. Would you like to go through any of the specific lines on here?
I just wanted to ask, so I assume, with legal fees, it's just an educated guess based upon what we know is going to happen and what the historical record of what has happened. And there's some room just in case somebody sues us for one reason or another.
You summed it up pretty well. I mean, our legal fees, our board attorney is a relatively low cost attorney. Our charges are relatively low, so there is some wiggle room in there for settlements if we have to make a settlement. So there is room in there for potential contingencies. If we ran into an issue where there was some major litigation, we would budget more appropriately the following year to cover such potential settlement.
It's sort of like for out-of-district placement. We have our best guess at what it might be. And we, hope. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions on central administration? I can go over any line in this. Moving on to the next one, benefits is the attachment name. It's 3 pages long. On the last page of benefits, there's a 3% increase of $187,000 approximately. Our projected increase for health benefits is the major part of this of $165,000. Health benefits, our increase projected right now is 6%, which is relatively low compared to the surrounding state. We are in a pool with other surrounding districts, and our performance is one of the lowest in the states. So the 6% is pretty decent. We will be evaluating providers as well as the actual increase in the spring that typically comes in April or May. And then open enrollment is in June. The other major increase in these lines relates to pension payments that the district must make for PERS members. as well as disability and waivers. So we have more staff members compared to prior years. Thankfully, those staff members are taking waivers, but that still has a cost associated with it. The other thing is we have a disability coverage that is contractual. Staff members pay $100 per person for that coverage. The rest of that coverage and the increase, which has been conveyed in finance minutes, is completely covered by the board, and that had increased substantially last year. Is there any questions on any of those lines?
So the low increase in the health insurance is because we have a low incidence of claims, a lower incidence than average of claims? Is that what you're saying?
Essentially, yes. And so as a pool, we've had a lower incident of claims, as well as the provider that we have currently, which is AmeriHealth, is one of the lower cost insurers. It's a reflection of both of those.
I'm glad to hear that we have healthy people. For many reasons. For many reasons.
Any other questions? Moving to the next attachment, which is stipends. This is 9 pages long. If you go to the last page on that, there's a minor reduction of $4,000. That is mainly a minor budget adjustment to assist with their mandated costs. That cut related to extra chaperones. So we have less wiggle room and we're gonna have to monitor our chaperones to make sure that we don't go over budget. Is there any questions on stipends before I move on? Relatively flat. The next attachment is salaries and regular payroll. This comprises approximately 75% of our budget. It is salaries for the entire district. You'll see that that went up $560,000 or 3%. We recently settled a contract with the RTEA for 2.8% and RTAA for 2.7%, which is public information. There's other staff adjustments and salary adjustments in that, as well as staffing changes, which are reflected in the major modifications memo that I discussed earlier. If you have any questions specifically on this, I would ask that you probably wait till executive session. Seeing none, I'm moving to professional development. There's nothing really confidential relating to professional development. If you scroll to the last page there, the budget was pretty much flat. Most of professional development that is reflective here is substitutes relating to when our staff go out for professional development. Not a huge line item. The next is overtime. So the next attachment is called overtime. This went up a good amount of 10% or $4,000. The two lines that really comprise the increase are 261-100, which is maintenance overtime, and 262-100, which is custodial overtime. The reason why the maintenance overtime is up is because of the boiler at Three Bridges is getting up there in age and is requiring a lot more servicing by external vendors. When there are alarms that go off and there's staff that needs to monitor it after it gets fixed, sometimes staff members have to come in at 1, 2 a.m. and will have to babysit the boiler for hours before they start their regular shift. So that's a reflection of the increase that we have seen this year in particular. We are having that boiler being replaced on our long-range facilities plan.
Do you know how long is?
Boilers can last for a very long time. 35, 50 years if you just keep maintaining them and putting work into them. It likely would be more cost effective to replace that sooner rather than later with a high efficiency. But as it currently stands, that was not budgeted for replacement this summer.
Yeah, because if we're babysitting it, whatever this is, 18 grand, or whatever the amount is per annum. I mean, I guess you'd have to figure out the math. I don't know how much it costs to replace it, but whatever, but at some point we should do the calculation of how much it is to babysit that thing per the number of years left. And I'm sure you've done that now, but whatever.
Yeah. So is there any questions on this before we move on? Brings me to my last report, which is a extended school year. This is really pupil services and a requirement by the state. We must provide extended school year for students that need it in their IEP program. That number has been remained essentially flat for the next year. As suggested, it's mandated. The number of students that qualify is based on the number of students who have it reflected in their IEP. There's also potential move-ins and students that are graduating. This also includes, there is also another portion that's included in out-of-district placements, which pupil services previously went over in their budget. That represents my portion of the budget. And do you have any questions on non-confidential materials?
How old that boiler is? Any chance?
Don just left.
Don.
Who's
No, he left.
Don.
left?
I don't know. I do know it is not as old as boilers that I have seen operating in Bergen County. When I was in Bergen County, they had boilers that were over 50 years old. You can keep boilers operating as long as you keep putting a significant amount of money in them with repairs. Repairs usually run $20,000 per year plus overtime. So you're talking $30,000 a year.
Well, because ultimately, the calculation should be the repairs, cost of repairs, the cost of babysitting it, and then also the amount of money you'd save per annum for the getting it more energy efficient on it. So we really should consider that. I mean, the thing is, fortunately, if that thing's 10 years old and it's got 25 years worth of life in it, if it's supposed to run for 35 years, whereas if it's 20 years and we're just, duct taping it together for the last 5 years, but we can talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, the bigger concern is also that if both boilers went down, there would be no heat at Three Bridges, which would impact the ability for students and staff to go to school. We have had one boiler of the two down, and we do annually, but our district is able to operate the other one and keep the heat on. So
Are they of the same vintage? Are they the same model?
I believe so.
I mean, so it would be advantageous as well as just the backup to have, if they're both old and unreliable, then there's the additional value of having one that's new and very reliable, even if there's an additional cost to that.
Don is tracking it, and we will likely review capital projects in August of this year for the following summer of 2020.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Unless there are any other questions, that concludes my superintendent's report.
Hello.
That's where the gas number comes from.
So we are now open to the public, limited to action items on the agenda.
Why did I just hear, oh boy?
No.
So, I'm Wayne Dorr, in case anybody doesn't know who I am. We have two pens that don't work. And I have 3 items that I want to bring up. First is, I noticed on the agenda that there were 3 pieces of correspondence from the public. I noticed the copies of those are not attached to the agenda. Unless those items have confidential information, I would ask that they be appended to the agenda or to the minutes and then in the future, all copies of non-confidential correspondence be attached to the agenda so we can read it ahead of time. Second item, all of you had spreadsheets in front of you tonight, presentations in front of you tonight. None of those copied onto the agenda so that we could bring copies as the public. I would ask, and I understand there's confidential information, any non-confidential information be attached to the agenda again so that we can read it ahead of time and come to the meeting informed. And last was item 4.05 on the agenda. We've got a $6,000 expenditure for a keynote speaker. We're going to play flight, air transportation, and hotel for someone to come in from a school book publishing company to give a keynote address, and we're going to pay $6,000 for that. I'm very curious to hear the explanation of how that works out. I understand it's Title II funding. I understand that it's not coming out of our tax dollars, but I still think there's a better way to spend it than having a book publisher come in and give a speech to our teachers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. I will start in reverse order with the keynote speaker. Similar to this year, the keynote speaker is not a publisher of our MAP program or any other programs that we have in district. This person is an individual who's going to come and deliver an address to all staff on the first day back. Similar to what we did this year, we had one keynote speaker come in for, I believe the approximate cost, I have to go look, was about $5,500 for this year to deliver a welcome back address. This keynote speaker will do the same thing. It's a charge to the staff for the first day back of the school year. The feedback I received in September of this year from the staff about having a keynote speaker come in was very positive. It started the year off on a really great note. Teachers felt energized and charged for the school year. The message was positive. It was one that invigorated the teachers. I did some research to try to find speakers of similar speaking ability, similar reputation. And this was one of the speakers that I had identified. And yes, it is paid through federal grant funds. Spreadsheets on the agenda. I looked at the agendas from last year. I noticed that there wasn't anything made available to the public last year. I just thought we were doing consistent practices, but it's something I'm happy to look into, and I'll get back to you. And then third, the correspondence. I recognize that looking back through some of the agendas, I recognize that sometimes there's correspondence that's on the agenda that's made publicly available. Sometimes there's correspondence that's not. I'll have to look at these specifically. I don't think that there was any confidential information. I think one was a request for the record for a bus route change. One was a student at 100 and Central looking for information. And the third, I'll find it. It's here. Of course, it's the last one I click on. A question about the custodial bid contract. Okay.
Anybody else would like to come up? Okay, moving right along. Oh, sorry, I didn't see you.
Wasn't fast enough. Hi, Kevin Meyer. Question, Jason, if you can clarify something on the budget. If you're unable to, I understand. There was a reduction of $16,000 in the budget amount for substitute use. Is that a result of the fact that in years past we have not utilized all that was budgeted? Or, because I know that that's a large conversation as we're having the substitute job and stuff like that. So it's really just a point of curiosity. Why the reduction? And I understand there's a need to reduce places to meet the 2% cap, but in the need to supply substitutes in the district. I don't understand why that was reduced.
Do you want me to address that?
If you have the
Stop
answer,
everybody.
if you have the answer,
So
feel free. If we want to get back to Kevin, we can.
I can answer that question. So Substitutes line also includes long-term leave replacements as well as workers that may go out on disability or other payment where we have to dual pay people. And a prime example of that was we had a business administrator where we were also having an interim business administrator. So we were essentially paying two salaries at the same time. We have to budget enough in case things like that do occur. If a significant amount of staff members become pregnant, or other circumstances, there are multiple of those every year. There are different dollar amounts associated with that. So one year we may not spend as much as another year. It really depends on the salaries and the circumstances. This reduction reflects just the tightening budget constraints.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's helpful to understand that it's not just the amount budgeted for daily substitute use when there's a staff member out. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, moving into correspondence, we had 3 correspondence since our last meeting. Administrative reports, can I get a motion to adopt 1.01 to 1.03?
Second.
Are there any questions on the items? Not hearing any, can I get a roll call, please?
Jared Beatrice,
Yes.
Carol Hample,
Yes.
Rob McKalen,
Yes.
Andrew Saunders,
Yes.
Thomas Wallace,
Yes.
Eric Zorling,
Yes.
Laura Simon.
Yes.
Passes.
We have the minutes. Can I get a motion to adopt 2.01 and 2.02?
Second.
Are there any questions on the minutes or changes that are needed? Not hearing any, can I get a roll call, please?
Jared Beatrice,
Yes.
Carol Hample,
Yes.
Rob McKalen,
Yes.
Andrew Saunders,
Yes.
Thomas Wallace,
Yes.
Eric Zorling,
Yes.
Laura Simon.
Yes.
Passes.
Finance and facilities. Can I get a motion to adopt 3.01 to 3.05?
Second.
You guys are hot tonight. Are there any, the last finance report was out at the last meeting. Okay, so we don't have any report. Are there any questions on the agenda items? Not hearing any. Can I get a roll call, please?
Jared Beatrice,
Yes.
Carol Hample,
Yes.
Rob McKalen,
Yes.
Andrew Saunders,
Yes.
Thomas Wallace,
Yes.
Eric Zorling,
Yes.
Laura Simon.
Yes.
Passes.
Education technology. Can I get a motion to adopt 4.01 to 4.10?
Second.
We did not have a report. That was the snow day, right?
That was the snow day. We're rescheduling our ed tech meeting.
Okay. Are there any questions on the agenda items?
I just want to point out on 4.01, the first item, Hollenbrook School for 42940 was 4 ball chairs.
4? Okay. I also had to look up what a wobble chair was.
They're very popular.
I wasn't impressed. I like the full chairs better. Okay. Are there any other questions? Not hearing any. Can I get a roll call, please?
Jared Beatrice,
Yes.
Carol Hample,
Abstain 4.01, yes to the rest.
Rob McKalen,
Yes.
Andrew Saunders,
Yes.
Thomas Wallace,
Yes.
Eric Zorling,
Yes.
Laura Simon.
Yes.
Passes.
Personnel. Can I get a motion to adopt 5.01 to 5.04?
Second.
We did have a meeting, but I didn't see minutes. Did you do minutes?
Unfortunately, we had our meeting Friday and I've had a busy few days, so I didn't get
Okay.
minutes. But
All right.
would you like me to report out from that part now? or-
Probably not.
Okay. There's only one thing that I was going to talk about
We
anyway.
can do it next time.
We'll do it next time.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
okay.
the one thing was just about the substitute.
Substitute fair, which is tomorrow,
Tomorrow.
right?
Tomorrow.
From what
It seems
time?
like Mother Nature doesn't like this.
No.
Thing.
Snow day tomorrow,
Stay
guys.
right.
Apparently, I don't see any snow in the forecast till after tomorrow afternoon.
No. Tomorrow, 10 to noon. Tomorrow morning, 5 to 7 in the evening. Tomorrow. We have, Doreen, over 40 registrants right now, and we're accepting walk-ins,
That's
which
pretty
is a
good
great
turnout.
number.
That's great.
Mhm. So hopefully on the next agenda, we'll have approximately 40 subs.
Wow. Okay,
Can I mention one more thing? I'm sorry, I apologize. So we are having quite a bit of help tomorrow from the RTA now that Kevin has just left the room. The RTA is volunteering their time tomorrow to come in to actually, for those who are substitutes that are potentially going to be substitutes to come in, show them what it looks like a day in the life of the sub, how to access Google Docs and things like that. So we really have developed a nice partnership, with the RTA. I'm complimenting the RTA for helping tomorrow with the sub job fair. Okay. So the RTA will be here to help out tomorrow. It's a team of folks. Lisa, Doreen, the administrators are here. It really is going to be a nice event. I think. Yeah, it really.
Subs coming in who have just
Yeah.
idea how to work the little minutia that goes on each.
Right. So it's nice. There
excellent.
you go.
Thank you. Are there any other questions on the agenda items? Not hearing any. Can I get a roll call?
Jared Beatrice,
Yes.
Carol Hample,
Yes.
Rob McCallum,
Yes.
Andrew Saunders,
Yes.
Thomas Wallace,
Yes.
Eric Zorling,
Yes.
Laura Simon,
Yes.
passes.
Communications. Can I get a motion to adopt 6.01? It says 6.03.
So moved.
Second.
There was no meeting, right? Okay. Are there any questions on the agenda items?
6.02 and 6.03, the calendars.
You missed that.
Okay,
Yeah, it was in the superintendent's room. Do you have?
I had a feeling.
Yeah.
Well, I looked through it. So, I'll just
You got it.
throw out there that I had heard feedback that the last day of school, I guess, did you talk to the high school about when their last day was for next year?
Yeah. They've shared a draft calendar? I don't think they publicly. Yes, I have.
And we're in line with them?
Almost.
Which is where you want to be because of the graduation complex.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't want to do graduation on the same day.
No, I understand that. I just mean, like, because those 2 days that go into the following week, I've been hearing negative feedback about it, but without knowing where the
Yeah.
high school was standing either.
So I can talk about our calendar. I don't know if they've shared their draft publicly yet, so I've had coordinated with them. I'll let you know that much. The constraints in our calendar are 181 school days by contract for the teachers, plus 4 additional professional development days that'll have to be built in. And then adding in, you take off religious holidays, Martin Luther King Day, those sorts of days. The only way to end on a Friday next year is to not build in 3 snow days and perhaps, go back and look at rearranging. It's just, I think it's just not possible. We want to build in 3 snow days because look at this year. The way the Christmas holiday falls, it gives us a longer break than ordinary. And that's really why it's pushed the calendar so long. Trust me, we looked at all options. It makes for a long year, I know. But yes, I've talked to the high school.
Okay. And
So,
then, so in the online, this year's calendar,
Mhm.
did you decide on? not
No,
yet?
no, we're going to get through the next couple of weeks. Because we still have, I hope not, but we still have a couple weeks of winter left, and we now have 1 day still left to make up. Hopefully no more than that.
Okay. So we're not revising the calendar 6.02.
So 6.02 is this year's calendar.
Right.
We're revising it to include the snow days that have already occurred and the makeup days that have already occurred, knowing that we still have 1 more day left to make up.
Okay.
So there will be 1 more revision.
Okay.
Okay, you're welcome.
Are there any other questions on the agenda items? Not hearing any. Can I get a roll call, please?
Jared Beatrice,
Yes.
Carol Hample,
No 6.03, yes to the rest.
Rob McEwen,
Yes.
Andrew Saunders,
Yes.
Thomas Wallace,
Yes.
Eric Zorling,
Yes.
Laura Simon,
Yes.
passes.
Moving into unfinished business. Does anybody have anything they want to bring up? New business from the board. Is there anything you want to bring up?
I sent an email that I just want to, I think maybe we might want to consider the concept of discussing, at least in the abstract, in the long term, the start time for the schools. And there's a lot of discussion out there about, it's primarily in the high schools, et cetera, the older students, but the benefits to starting school somewhat later so that the children get some more school and come to school more rested. I realize that it's a potential logistic nightmare to change from where we are now, but it's something that, I think there's some merit in having the discussion. I certainly have no predisposition to the findings, but I think we should explore it and just see where it goes. And I think that's also something, obviously, that we need some input from Kevin and the RTA. I mean, there's a lot of issues, but it's one that is important enough that it should be discussed.
I would agree with you. There's certainly a lot of data on it to look at. So Dr. Hart has agreed to look at that. It wouldn't be obviously for this coming year, but maybe for the following. So discussions will start. We just have to give him a little bit of time. He has a full plate right now.
No,
Sounds like another committee.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know whether this, would be, a tech or policy. I mean, who knows where it is. I just wanted to throw that out there. It's something that we would need some, input as well from the community. I mean, this affects absolutely everybody. It affects the teachers, it affects the parents, it affects the students.
Right.
This should be a community-wide decision, but it's a discussion that I think is worth having.
It's also a good opportunity because you plan on doing strategic planning.
Yes.
So that would fit in perfectly.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that we're talking about for this school year that I think naturally fit in to strategic planning for next year, as we all sit down as a community to decide what our vision for the district is going to be over the next 5 years. There are so many things that come up, particularly this time of year as we plan the budget, that I think, I'm not trying to put it off, but I think would be a better discussion to have in a more strategic way, in a more systematic way, so that we have a clear focus. We decide what our goals and our vision is for the district, and we decide whether or not an initiative like this that is going to, like you said, impact literally everybody is going to be part of our focus for the district and the future of the district. So I'm certainly not opposed to looking into it, but like you said, I think that there are so many different individuals that need to be involved in that conversation. In addition, it being part of strategic planning, which I think is really important.
I mean, I for one, and the new board members, one thing when I first started on the Green Committee 8 years ago, Don's predecessor, another Don, said to me, if you think you're going to get things changed quickly, you need to learn about delayed gratification. So I took a very patient and long view of things, and we have made a difference. But this is not something that needs to be done immediately. It just needs to be thought of very deliberately.
Yeah.
And taken in that vein.
Understood. Thank you.
Anything else you'd like to bring up?
Yeah, I have a question about, we know there's new housing developments going in within the town, the one on Main Street, the Nelson Project, there's another one proposed off 22 at Mullins, an old Mullins factory. I saw an article today about another one by Unicom,
Yes.
254 units of some sort.
Yep.
Does the town ever let us know about these potential developments? Because I was at the council meeting last week when they were discussing the new one off 22, and that one for Unicom that I saw today was not mentioned at all, wasn't brought up at all. So obviously that's going to impact us going forward, 250 more,
I think it's
housing
actually
units.
422.
When I
Right,
read
was it
that,
422?
I wasn't sure they were talking collective, okay, or that specific one.
I could be wrong on my numbers, but I thought it was 254.
Yeah, it could be.
But when I looked at the ratio, when we were talking about the phlegm rare, you're talking about another 185 students potentially with that ratio,
One development, yeah.
if it was the 465.
At what point do they let board know that, hey, this is a potential that's gonna occur, so we can start lining ducks up, maybe? Do they ever do that? Has it ever been done?
Not that I'm aware of.
We had a meeting with the township administrator earlier in the year, which clued us into the Nelson project. And I think Jason's been in communication more often.
Yeah, so essentially, on occasion, Marcy, who talks frequently with the police department, also goes to the township with another staff member to just get an update on potential projects that have passed committee vote, because those projects would potentially affect us a year and a half from now. So we've only been aware of very few. I know there's a lot of discussions about potential projects, but given that there's a time frame even after they approve it to then permitting and construction, finalizing construction and getting persons in the housing, it's very similar to Nelson Street that we knew about that, but it doesn't affect the school district until likely much into next school year.
For years, really. I mean,
Yeah.
by the time they're developed, but
Yeah.
I was just surprised to hear this third one now. That had not been discussed anywhere that I had seen private, previously to, last week even, so. Obviously, it's the potential for a lot of, kids coming into the district. And all that.
We know now.
200 something, yeah.
Paper today.
I saw it today, it was posted, so I don't know what actually printed. Okay, that's all.
Thank you.
Anything else that you want to bring up? All right, we are now open to the public. Anything on or off the agenda? Hello, Wayne.
So Wayne doing? Just in reference to Tom's comment, perhaps the school board could send a letter to the township requesting some, I'll use the term presence on the planning board, because that's where most of these items come up first, so that at least you get the heads up on them. In the past, we've had planning board members who were also school board members, and they were able to bring some of the information to us. So perhaps the township would agree to give us either access to their minutes or a representation on the planning board itself. Second item was Eric's comment about boilers. Very, very appropriate to discuss that, and your comments about the cost of it not being just the cost of the annual repair costs. There are a lot more considerations that need to be made, and I think once you discover what those are, you're going to find that replacing at least one of the boilers now and another one in 4 or 5 years is much more economical than trying to maintain those 2 boilers for another 5 to 10 years. That's all I had to say.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who'd like to come up? Are you sure? Okay. We're going to move into executive session unless someone has a comment. No? Any question? No? Okay. Moving into executive session, can I get a motion to go into executive session in accordance with the Sunshine Law to discuss a HIB and personnel matters relating to employees 6618-4330, a legal matter relating to employee 5885, litigation and personnel/benefit budget review for approximately 45 minutes, at which time the board expects to return to public session where no action will be taken. The matters discussed will be made public if and when the circumstances requiring confidentiality no longer exist. However, it is not presently known when such circumstances will exist. Motion?
Second.
Can I get a roll call, please?
Jared Beatrice,
Yes.
Carol Ample,
Yes.
Rob McCallum,
Yes.
Andrew Saunders,
Yes.
Thomas Wallace,
Yes.
Eric Zorling,
Yes.
Laura Simon.
Yes.